everyone. This is Talk Back. It is September 21, and we have a few more weeks until the November 2nd local elections that we're going to have in Colchester and in other towns in the state of Connecticut. And we've been doing a series of interviews. We interviewed Mary Bylone, our first selectman, last week. We're going to continue a series with her. Stay tuned for those dates. And today we have the pleasure of talking to two of the current people on the Board of Selectmen, Rosemary Coyle and Denise Turner. Hi, Rosemary. Hi, Denise. Good to see you today.
Hi, Sheila.
Hi, Sheila.
I'm going to tell everybody, have you both on the screen. It's great to see you. Have you both listen while I talk about each of your accomplishments, and then I'll have a few questions for you. So, Rosemary's on the Board of Selectmen. She's been there before from other terms besides last term. She is the past vice chair of the Board of Education in Colchester. She's chaired the Elderly Tax Relief and Senior Center Subcommittee. She is a liaison as a selectman to the Senior Center building, the Open Space and Agriculture Committees. She is very important that she put this in, a proud grandmother, a retired teacher. She doesn't mention that she was a leader in the state of Connecticut at the Connecticut Education Association. She's also active in the Lions Club, the Historical Society, and the Land Trust. So that's Rosemary, just a few of her accomplishments in public service. And Denise also is on the Selectmen Board this past term. She's a past board member of the Assessment Appeals Board. She was chairman of that board. She was on the Fire Department Volunteer Tax Exemption Program, the chair of a very important committee that we've just started in Colchester, the Ad Hoc Committee for Diversity and Inclusion, which she can talk about. She facilitated an agreement with the Colchester Historic District Commission and the town regarding the Town Green Restoration Project, which she can talk about. She's an elder care recreation specialist and an active volunteer in the Federated Church and the Historical Society. And more important than anything, she loves to bake and makes an awesome chocolate chip cookie. So, are you going to let us publish your recipe for that? Awesome.
I don't know. And to be clear, it's chocolate chunk, not chocolate chip.
Oh, did I say chip? You know what? I have chunk. Yeah, very important. Chunks are better than chips. Everyone knows
Absolutely.
that. Right.
Absolutely.
All right. So let me ask each of you. I've mentioned some of your past accomplishments in public service. Answer this question. You want to run again? You want to be selectman again for the next term? What is it about your history, your qualifications, your prior service, and your interest that makes you the right choice to do this again? We'll start with you, Rosemary.
Well, my goal I guess since I've been on the Board of Selectmen has to deal with senior issues. And as liaison to the Senior Center Building Committee, one of my goals is to get the Senior Center done completion and be able to walk in that door. So we're working hard to see that happen. But for me, it's always about the citizens of Colchester and making the best decisions you possibly can. You base those decisions on facts. You make decisions and ask questions. And your decision has nothing to do but what's best for Colchester citizens. I try to work in a bipartisan manner and to get things done because that's the way things happen. I've loved being on the Board of Selectmen, and that's why I guess I continue to run. Besides this, I served on the Board of Education, as Sheila said. But I've learned so much. You learn so much when you're on the agriculture, you liaison to the Agriculture Commission or open space. You learn so much about the town. And I guess for me, the most important give back is my experience in history. As members of the board change, you need that historical presence. You need someone to be able to say, no, this happened in the past, and we take that knowledge and we go forward from there. So I'm dedicated. I love Colchester, and I make decisions based on facts and research in the best interest of Colchester citizens.
Okay, Denise, your turn on that question.
Yeah. Well, I spent 6 years on the Board of Assessment Appeals, and I stepped onto the Board of Selectmen in 2019, first as a replacement, and then I was elected into the board later in the year. And since being on the board, being involved with the Diversity and Inclusion Committee, being involved with the Exempt and Revision Committee for the Fire Department, and with the Historic District Commission, I have learned a lot about how government works and about how Colchester works. And I feel that I have, I've put a lot of time into these commissions. And I also find, I like to make responsible decisions based on what I feel is in the best interest of the town. And, I don't have the history that Rosemary has, but I think you also need new people that have a different viewpoint and different insight. And I think I kind of fill that tab. And that's why I think I'm a good candidate to be on the board and to be elected again.
Great. All right. So let's go back to basics, because we talk about Board of Selectmen, first selectman. Rosemary, give us a little primer on exactly what makes up the board. What are the responsibilities of you two are selectmen? You're not full-time. I mean, you may think that you're full-time on your job, but you're not considered full-time employees of the town as the first selectman is, who really is more like the manager, or one might say akin to a mayor. So just explain to people just the mechanics of what is the Board of Selectmen. How does it work?
Well,
how many people?
Right. The Board of Selectmen meets twice a month on the first and the third Thursday of the month. And as well as that, we are all liaisons to different committees, just like agriculture, open space, economic development, whatever they may be. The Board of Selectmen is the policymaking board of the town of Colchester. So all policies are voted on by the Board of Selectmen. We work in conjunction with the Board of Finance when it has monetary issues. So we recommend things to the Board of Finance to be passed depending on what they are and what kind of expenditure it would be. But, we represent the people in moving the town forward in a direction that includes every piece that you could possibly imagine. We vote on contracts of the employees. We vote on contracts, for hiring somebody. And we do the hiring of all the directors. So there's definitely a difference between, the financial piece, but we are involved in that financial process by charter. So we kind of take the vision and the work of the town and move it forward.
Okay, so I have another question. There's the Board of Selectmen and there's the Board of Education. There's two entities. Matter of fact, today, if anybody's watching this live, it will be shown on TV later also. But if you're watching it live and you're a Colchester citizen who's a voter, you can go and vote on the budget, which is, I think, the third referendum on the town budget. The Board of Education budget already having been passed. So, Rosemary, how many people are on the Board of Selectmen?
Oh, I'm sorry. The Board of Selectmen.
And the number, how many years in a term, and how are they elected?
Okay. The Board of Selectmen is made up of the first selectman and 4 other selectmen. Currently, there are 3 Democrats and 2 Republicans that sit on the Board of Selectmen. We are elected every 2 years. In fact, we are the only board that is elected every 2 years, including the first selectman. All the other boards are elected either 4 or 6-year terms. I tried to change that in the charter and make us all 4-year terms, but that was unsuccessful in the past.
Okay. And
Did I answer all your questions?
Well, the only other thing is that people, the difference between the Board of Education has its own structure, its own financial budget that it prepares and that are voted on separately by the town.
Right. So we don't deal with education at all. Okay. Only in the fact that we all have to work together. If we don't work together as boards, then it doesn't move the town forward in an organized and supportive way. So even though the Board of Education is its entity in itself, it has its own budget. It has the Board of Education made up of 7 members, make the decisions for the school system, there are times there are overlaps. And when we have those kind of overlaps, we often have tri-board meetings or meetings just with the Board of Finance, because it's necessary that the boards talk to one another and work with one another. So if the town doesn't function without people working together. And I have to say, in the last 2 years, it's been really inspiring to see the collaboration that has moved Colchester forward.
Okay, so it's good for the public to see how these things work, how they come about. And so now let's turn to of the five, the first selectman can be a member of either party. In this case, there are two Democrats on the board, you two, and the selectman is a Democrat, Mary Bylone, and the other two are Republicans, right? So let's talk about the first selectman, whose job is a full-time employee manager, overseeing a multi-million-dollar budget and leading the Board of Selectmen. So Denise, let's start with you. Working under the leadership of Mary Bylone, who is running for re-election, tell us what you think about why we need to allow her to continue the work and what you think about her leadership thus far.
Well, Mary came into office in November of 2019. And then shortly thereafter, I would say probably about February of 2020, we were hit with this pandemic. So she's been governing in a very unusual time. And I think she's done quite a good job of leading us through COVID. Also, on top of that, we had Hurricane Isaias. We had another hurricane this year. And I think she did a very good job of leading us through all of those. And under her administration, we were able to get testing in the town of Colchester. We were able to get vaccinations in the town of Colchester. In the meantime, still running the rest of the government the way it should be, working on the budget, working hard to get a budget passed that would be fiscally responsible and would benefit everybody. It's just been a difficult term, and I think she's done a very good job of getting us through it.
Okay, Rosemary, I'm sure you have something to add. And to that, I want you to talk about the unbelievable amount of communication through Facebook Live, through interviews she's done, through her even in-person connections with people in the lead of the town, and how important that is. Talk about that.
Yeah, I just would like to add one thing. Mary was a nurse administrator. How lucky were we to have someone elected as first selectman that had the skills to deal with a pandemic, all right, that had the skills to deal with this health crisis that we are facing, and actually we're still in, because it's not totally gone away. So she needed to find ways to communicate what was going on. And in the beginning of the pandemic, she set 2 times, one in the earlier part of the day and one at night, every day, to give people an update on COVID. All right. She sends out her listservs, to the town. But I think communication has been Mary's utmost strong point. She does Facebook Lives, not only for COVID, but she does Facebook Lives to talk about issues in town, whether it's about recreation or it's bringing in the health director from the Chatham Health Board. So she really wants people to know in a very transparent way what's happening, to ask her questions. And she's even given people her personal cell phone number, because she feels that important to be in communication with the people that she represents. And to say it was a challenge is I cannot even imagine the stress and the effort. And I've seen her work 24/7. That's what she does. She puts Colchester first. She puts the citizens of Colchester first, because she truly cares and loves this town.
Right. Let's talk about something else, and that is the way people in town, citizens who may mean well and want the best for their town, there's some lack of cordiality, cooperation, goodwill you can disagree with your opponent, but you can do it in an honest and forthright way without getting nasty, without having the kinds of rhetoric that we sometimes hear through the newspapers and so forth. And this takes a toll on our professional public service people and people like you too. It saps your energy of wanting to do the right thing. You have to be, of course, oversight is important. The public should know what you're doing, should be able to criticize. This is America, but there's a way to go about it. So I don't want to push people out of public service because they're hounded by critics who don't understand how democracy really should work in the right way. I need you both to comment on that. Denise?
I will say that this term, because of that type of rhetoric that's been going around, has been difficult. It's not easy sitting in a board. It's not easy sitting in a meeting. The meetings can be quite difficult depending on the topics that are discussed and the attitudes of the people in the meetings. That's a hard thing to comment on. I think a lot of it has to do with what's going on nationally seems to be coming back to us locally. And these same kinds of things are happening. I find it difficult that people feel that it's okay, to, I don't even know, to decimate somebody's character, in order to get their point across. And it's just not necessary. It is just not something that I have really seen in Colchester in the past. I think it's ugly, and it's not something I would like to see continue on in the future, because if we cannot work together, if we cannot have a difference of opinion and still work together, we're not working for the betterment of the people of Colchester. We're working for ourselves as individuals, and that's just not the way these boards should run.
Right. And I think, Denise, I hear you that despite that, you're going to strive to not let that stop you from doing what you think is best for the town. Is that right?
Absolutely not. You don't want to let people scare you away because, in a manner, then they've won, so.
Right. Okay. Rosemary, your thoughts.
Well, I've been involved in a lot of elections. I've run many times for this position. I've worked with boards where in fact, most of the time I've been on the Board of Selectmen. I've been in the minority, but there was no minority because you know what? We really worked in a bipartisan manner. But I see such a change and a tone going on in this election. And the rhetoric is hurtful. And it forgets that candidates are real people that have real feelings. And while they're trying to work very hard for our community, they have to deal with all these negative attacks. I know people want to win, but we should not be winning at the cost of being so hurtful and so cruel and so mean. And that's the kind of stuff that's going on social media, and it's very disheartening. I choose not to go on several pages on Facebook because any kind of post, whether it's a positive post, it just gets attacked if you're the opposite party. And that's wrong because you're distorting the facts. The facts are all distorted. And I agree with Denise. I feel like I'm reliving the past presidential election in Colchester. And that's that's very sad for me. Very sad for me because I've worked hand in hand with anyone and everyone that's been elected to the Board of Selectmen for many, many years. And so it's discouraging.
Yeah. Well, let's hope you two are not going to let this discourage you from continuing on to do your
Absolutely.
I'm going to get the
people. Let's hope people are listening and people are taking note and people are saying, these public servants deserve a lot of credit for putting up with some of the stuff they put up with because they care about moving the town forward, which is the only thing that's important, moving the town forward. So now let's hope the message gets to people. Let's talk about the accomplishments of the past 2 years, the things that you two feel that the Board of Selectmen has done well, and then we'll get to your aspirations for the next term, what's on the burner, what needs to be done. So Denise, talk about how you think you've succeeded in these past 2 years in the various programs that you've worked with.
One of the things I worked with was the Colchester Hayward Volunteer Fire Department Exemption Revision Committee, and that was revising the exemptions for the volunteer firemen that work in our town. Another thing that I did, I worked very closely with the Historic District Commission and our town planner. We had received a grant for some renovations on the town green, and we were kind of at an impasse as to how the funding would be used to improve the green, but also keep the historic feel of the green in certain things. So I was able to work with both of them to come to some conclusions as to how we could keep the green looking historic and still get it fixed up and so we didn't lose the grant. So that was another thing that I did. And I believe probably the biggest thing I did, I was the chairperson for the ad hoc committee for diversity and inclusion, which we were tasked with creating and defining what a diversity commission for the town of Colchester would look like, which we did. We came up with a commission name called CORE, Colchester's Openness to Respecting Equity. We took that to a town meeting about, I think, 2 weeks ago, where the town voted overwhelmingly to pass it. So CORE is now a new commission for the town of Colchester. So those are the things that have kept me busy in the last 2 years.
Okay. Rosemary, what about you?
Right. Well, I work hand in hand with the first selectman on many issues as her vice chair, and also providing history, because I think when you come into the position of first selectman, as Mary did 2 years ago, you don't always have the history or of what's happened before. But the kinds of things that I've seen that over these 2 years that are just incredible are, our grand list growth. Our grand list went up 1.5%. We maintained our AA plus bond rating, which will help us with the new senior center when we get it passed. We'll get a good deal on that. I've seen the Eversource gas line was completed. The focus on open space. Mary very much supports open space, and we were able to purchase with a grant and with town funds the property off of Route 16 that will be for passive recreation and connects the green line that we've been developing. So the fact that there's so many things that have moved forward in public safety. We made a real commitment to public safety, and in her first budget in the first year, we got through 2 firefighter EMTs. They needed more paid staff to cover all the shifts. And that passed in the first budget. And this year she would have liked to get the 2 policemen, but with the budget being cut several times, the 2 policemen were out. But other things were done for the police because we have to wear body cameras, and we got them a new shed, and there's a new plan for the car replacement. So there's a real. I've seen Mary really focus on trying to address issues of the town that haven't been addressed, because as what happens every year, the budget controls sometimes what happens, what has to be addressed. On the playground, INCORD, we work with INCORD to get some great playground equipment, and we're working to complete the playground with additional equipment, and hopefully we'll get some money from ARPA. I'm a liaison to the ARPA committee, which is the American Rescue Plan Act, which has given the town $4.8 million to be over 2 years. And the ARPA committee has actually met twice, and is in the process of developing the application for requests to use the money. So it's going to be a very open process. I work with the Senior Center Building Committee, and I talk about that a lot because this is the first time we in 2019 we appointed the committee, and the committee is actually to point getting ready to go to referendums. I see that probably happening within the next couple of months. So it's been an exciting 2 years, and so much has happened, and it's happened under the leadership of First Selectman Mary Bylund, and it's happened because we have a great team. Denise's work on CORE was outstanding. It was just outstanding, and it was something we should all be proud of.
Okay. So Denise, I want you to tell us the purpose of CORE, of having a committee that works on equity and diversity. Why does Colchester need that? Why is it so important?
Well, what we decided that the mission of CORE would be, we see it as an opportunity for Colchester to discover, bridge, support, and celebrate the diversity within our community, to make certain that everyone knows that everybody is welcome. We want to make certain that everybody has the same opportunities to live equitably within this town.
Okay, that's a good way to express it. So you've talked about some of the accomplishments, notwithstanding that, the biggest overriding issue was controlling and managing the pandemic, which Colchester, as a citizen, I know, did very well, better than many places in Connecticut and around the country. So I'm proud of that as a citizen of Colchester. But let's talk about the future. You're running because you want to be reelected. What's the program? And you already mentioned a bit of it, Rosemary, the American Rescue Plan Act, which,
Yes.
So many people don't realize that the rescue plan also gave millions of dollars and some to cities and towns all over the country to use in infrastructure and other needed projects, and that each town could decide for themselves how to make use of those funds. And many of them they're still sitting and ready to be used and voted on. So that's one of the things on the burner, right? Talk about that and a couple of other issues that are important when you get reelected, and why it's better for your team to be the one to decide what happens to those ARPA funds.
Well, I think first and foremost, the process that we've developed using with the ARPA committee is going to be transparent. And the ARPA committee's purpose is to make recommendations to the Board of Selectmen. The ARPA committee was originally the Long-Term Recovery Committee, which was a part of the state's recommendation for dealing with COVID. In fact, Colchester was one of only a few towns in the state of Connecticut that had a Long-Term Recovery Committee, which actually analyzed the issues of COVID and how they impacted the town. So the group of individuals has been working together for over a year, and they were like the perfect committee to actually move forward with ARPA. So this is going to include small projects and large projects, but as Mary often says, 4.8 million sounds like a lot of money, but when you start spending it, you find how quickly that the money goes away. And remember, the Board of Finance took out about $358,000 from the budget of one-time expenditures, like for the recreation, the basketball court, the roof on the youth center. And that money is going to come from ARPA because they felt that would be covered under that law. So right now, the Board of Selectmen has already approved that money to be paid for those things using the ARPA money. So we'll hopefully start moving forward with that. But there, ARPA can include extending the sewer system. It could include something as putting recreation into the new recreation into the pieces of recreation into the at the rec park. In other words, pieces of equipment, because we talk about that. So it's so open-ended and exciting. It really is. It hopefully will address some of the things that the town of Colchester hasn't been able to do because we just don't have the resources.
So basically, it'll be like almost like an infrastructure bill, although it could be used for whatever the
Well-
town's needs are.
Well, we don't want to spend, we want to wait and see if the infrastructure bill passes because we think maybe some of the things we might want to do might come under that. First and foremost, one of the other things, for me is to complete the new senior center. All right, we have the opportunity. We've been told that we have we've applied for a $3 million grant from the state, and that is still being in consideration. So that would, if that were to happen, it wouldn't cost the town. They wouldn't increase the debt service, let's say. Right now, to build the senior center will cost the average taxpayer in Colchester $52. That's it. And that's over not $52 over 4 years, but $13 a year for 4 years. And that also included passing the apparatus, which we did. So that's the total impact to the debt service, $52.
And there's going to be a referendum? There's going to be a referendum on that?
That would go to referendum and hopefully in the next couple of months. So that would be very exciting because this would be a building not only for seniors, but it would be for the community. The community would have an opportunity to use the facility when the seniors aren't. And I don't think we have any kind of facility in town that allows that.
Right.
So the other piece I think is public safety. And like I said, while we got the 2 firemen, hopefully maybe next year or the year after, we can start instituting the need for the additional policemen. So I think there are lots of things. Open space, we're always looking to increase open space. Agriculture, I was at an agricultural meeting and they want to have an agritourism website because there are so many people that farm in Colchester and offer things to the community. They want everybody to know about it because we think it's a real draw to bring people here. So I want to continue that. I want to continue serving the people of Colchester because it's one of the things that I love to do.
Denise, when you talk about the programs that you want to put forward for the future, I also want you, maybe both of you, to talk about this issue. The legislation that's passed in our local towns that go to referendum, that we make decisions on, in some ways they're more important. Our roads, our schools, our recreation, our lights, our electricity. So many of these things are on the local level that affect our lives so much more sometimes than what we see going on in Washington. Why and don't we get more people voting in the local elections? And how are we able to increase that? So I want you to take that question along with your aspirations for programs to move forward if and when you get reelected.
I think that's a good question and a wide open question. How do we get more people out to vote? We go out and we speak to people and people have an opinion, but for some reason, when it comes down to it, I actually spoke to a gentleman last week who did not vote in the last referendum because he assumed that the budget would pass. So I think that's where we are with a lot of people, that they just figured that, it will get passed anyhow, so why bother vote, or that my vote isn't going to count. But, I hope people realize that the last budget lost by 4 votes. So 5 more people had voted, we wouldn't be having a referendum today. So, and one of the things that I think we need to continue on, which would be great for our tax base too, is economic development. I don't know if anybody knows that we had 57 new businesses open in Colchester since January of this year. They're not all storefront businesses, but it's still 57 new businesses. The other thing that I think we need to increase, and I would like to see us do more of, is communication, and that goes along with transparency. I think Mary's done an excellent job with her Facebook Live, or trying to communicate any important information over Facebook. Her town website, her emails. I think she's done a really good job of communicating with the people that way. But I think we need to expand upon that and see how, what else we can bring forth. And I am a very big supporter of and agree with Rosemary and behind 100% on this senior center. I think that's a big project that we need to work on and hopefully get passed in the next administration and see that start being built. I think that'll make a lot of people happy. And again, I think ARPA is the funds from ARPA are going to help in a lot of different ways and with recreation. And it'll be interesting to see some of the suggestions that people come up with as to how they feel the ARPA money should be used.
Okay, great. So Rosemary, I want you to answer that question about why people who are living in a town and being impacted every day, every minute by the services that town provides, why they don't come out to vote in the same numbers that they'll go out and vote for president. Talk about that.
If I knew the answer to that question, I think we would have no trouble winning elections. I think people have to. I think it's very hard because there are different groups of people that live in Colchester. Everybody's not on Facebook or everybody's not on the web. So it's the way that information is delivered. And I think, Mary's really tried to deliver information to get people involved in many different venues. Besides doing Facebook Live, she's had community conversations, and even during COVID, she'd have them on the green to be safe. So trying to bring people together in person, via the internet, we don't really have a newspaper. I mean, we have the River East that comes out once a week, but we don't really have a major newspaper, in town, the Hartford Courant or the New London Day that cover the information in Colchester. So I think it's a real challenge. And I think when you're campaigning and you go door to door and you speak with people, you give them a reason to come out because they meet you personally. They get to ask you questions. And I think that's a important part of, this campaign. But I don't think people realize that our local elected officials really make the decisions that impact you on a daily basis. And that's truly where you have control. And one thing I forgot before that I want to say, the difference between the Democratic ticket headed by Mary Bylon and the other ticket is that we are without a doubt all supporting and in favor of a new senior center.
Okay. So I want you to also tell us, you don't have to name them all, but you're running with a ticket. So in addition to the first selectman, Mary, you have the Board of Education, the Board of Finance, the Board of Assessment Appeals. You have other people running. Where can people turn to get information about the other members of the Democratic Party who are running for this for seats in this election?
Well, you want me to answer that? We all
Yes.
have a Facebook page. Mine is Rosemary Coyle for Board of Selectmen. You can also go to colchesterdemocrats.com because that's our town committee page, but it's also lists each candidate and a blurb about each candidate. Let me think where else.
There's a headquarters, right? Tell us where the headquarters is.
We have a headquarters right across the street from the Polish Club. Denise, where else can we find it? You can look on our flyers, which we leave at every household. What else? Denise,
and the Colchester Democrats also has a Facebook page.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
And you still go, notwithstanding COVID, you're starting to do door-to-door campaigning.
Oh,
is that
we
right?
have been, yes.
Yes,
That is
we have.
correct.
That's good.
And yes.
Right. So I'm going to give each of you, let's keep Rosemary and Denise on the screen if we can, and give them each a chance to give us a kind of a summary of why we need to re-elect the Democratic ticket, including Mary Bylon, the other candidates, and Denise and Rosemary. So Denise, you start. tell us what you most want to say that we may have overlooked in talking so far, and final pitch for the vote. Denise, you start.
Hi. I think that this administration has been able to accomplish quite a lot, led by Mary Bylone. I think she's been a powerhouse for us. And I think that the ticket that we have put forth is a fantastic ticket with a bunch of fantastic people that will be able to help move Colchester in the direction that we feel that it needs to go into. I think our, working with the ARPA funds, getting the senior center passed, which is very important, economic development, continue on the streak that we've got there. And as Rosemary mentioned, public safety and communication. I think Mary's communication has been phenomenal. And I think working as a team, we've done a very good job. So, I've been a member of the Board of Selectmen for 2 years. And, when I got elected, I jumped right in with 2 feet. There's no such thing as sitting back and waiting for things to happen. You jump right in and get things going. We make responsible decisions based on what is in the best interest of the town. And I think we would just like to continue on for another 2 years to help moving Colchester forward.
Okay, great. Thank you, Denise. And Rosemary, your final thoughts.
I think Denise just about said it all, but this is a great team. Okay. It's made up of experienced people. It's made up of new people that want to get involved and want to work for Colchester. The ticket works for Colchester. They don't have any other motive for running for the positions that they're running for. It's not to be, people think that this gives you power. It just gives you a lot of work. Sometimes my family says to me, are you sure this is a volunteer position and it's part-time? Because it seems more like that. But I see this ticket putting their heart and soul into the decisions that it makes. It makes the decisions carefully. It makes the decisions based on facts. And it makes the decisions in the best interest of the citizens of Colchester. We want to move we want to move Colchester forward. We want to see that we continue working on open space, agriculture, economic development, public safety, doing the right things as we finish and get rid of COVID, hopefully. And we want to focus on getting that senior center done, on providing a good place for our youth, fix the youth service building, and doing anything that's necessary while still being fiscally responsible. We are a fiscally responsible ticket. We think about the dollars. We think about what the dollars should be spent on. And we want to spend those dollars in the best interests of Colchester. It's been a pleasure for me to work with this team. It's been a pleasure for me to work with Mary and Denise on the Board of Selectmen, and I'm looking forward to 2 more years.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Denise and Rosemary. Our continuing series of interviews with Colchester candidates will begin again tomorrow with Bernie Denler, who is running for the Board of Finance. Stay tuned. We'll see you all next time on Talk Back. Bye.